What if the antidote to your deepest fears was hidden in a single verse? Today, we're breaking down the powerful promise in Isaiah 41-10 that has comforted millions through history's darkest moments, from ancient exiles to modern anxiety. Welcome to our Bible Explained series. Today we're exploring Isaiah 41-10, one of Scripture's most powerful promises. Let's read it together. Fear not, for I am with you. Be not dismayed, for I am your God. I will strengthen you, I will help you. I will uphold you with my righteous right hand. Written during one of Israel's darkest periods, the Babylonian exile. These words offered hope when God's people faced national extinction. But this verse isn't just historical. It contains 5 divine promises that can transform how we face our fears today. To fully appreciate Isaiah 41-10, we need to understand its context. The prophet Isaiah delivered these words around 700 BC, but they specifically addressed Israel's coming Babylonian exile. Imagine your entire nation conquered, your sacred temple destroyed, and your people forcibly relocated to a foreign land. This was Israel's reality. Their very identity as God's chosen people seemed in question. Had God abandoned them? Were the Babylonian gods more powerful? Into this crisis of faith, Isaiah speaks God's reassurance. This wasn't just comforting words, it was a radical claim that despite appearances, God remains sovereign and faithful to his covenant. What makes this verse extraordinary is that God doesn't just offer sympathy. He provides 5 specific promises that form a complete answer to human fear. And these same promises extend to us today. Verse breakdown. Fear not. The command fear not appears over 365 times throughout Scripture. That's at least one fear not for every day of the year. This isn't coincidental. In Hebrew, the phrase is altera, a direct command against fear. Notice God doesn't begin with explanation or reasoning. He starts with a command because fear itself is often irrational. Fear is our natural response to threat. But God knows that fear can paralyze us and distort our perception of reality. So before anything else, God addresses our emotional state. Fear not, for I am with you. Now comes the first reason not to fear: God's presence. For I am with you. This promise echoes throughout Scripture. From God's promise to Jacob in Genesis to Jesus' final words in Matthew, I am with you always. The Hebrew emphasizes the personal nature of this presence. It's not just that some divine force exists, it's that the Creator of the universe is personally present with you. Modern neuroscience confirms what Scripture has always taught. The presence of a trusted companion literally calms our nervous system. God's presence isn't just spiritual comfort, it's the fundamental answer to our deepest insecurities. Be not dismayed, for I am your God. The second command addresses a different aspect of fear. Be not dismayed in Hebrew is ot, which literally means don't look anxiously about or don't be scattered in your thinking. When we're afraid, our thoughts scatter in all directions, imagining worst-case scenarios. God commands mental focus, then provides the anchor, for I am your God. Notice the possessive, not just I am God, but I am your God. This references the covenant relationship. Israel belonged to God, and God belonged to Israel. This same covenant relationship extends to believers today. This identity statement grounds us. Whatever you face it with the Creator of the universe claiming you as his own. I will strengthen you. Now we move from commands to direct promises of action. I will strengthen you uses the Hebrew meaning to be strong, alert, and courageous. This isn't just about physical strength, but inner fortitude. The ability to stand firm when everything within you wants to collapse. Notice God doesn't promise to remove all challenges. Instead, He promises to strengthen us for whatever we face. This strength comes from within as God's Spirit works in us. Paul understood this when he wrote, "I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me." The promise isn't that we won't face difficulties, but that we'll never face them with our strength alone. We see this promise of strength demonstrated throughout Scripture. Consider David facing Goliath, a shepherd boy against a battle-hardened giant. In 1 Samuel 17, David didn't rely on his own strength, but declared, "The Lord who delivered me from the paw of the lion and the bear will deliver me from this Philistine." God strengthened an unlikely hero to overcome impossible odds. Or think of Gideon, who began as the weakest man in the weakest clan, hiding in a wine press. Yet in Judges 6-7, God transformed this fearful man into a mighty warrior who defeated the Midianite army with just 300 men. God's strength perfected in weakness. I will help you. The Hebrew word for help here is azar, which carries the idea of surrounding, protecting, and aiding. This promise addresses our fear of inadequacy, the worry that we won't have what we need when challenges come. God promises His active intervention in our circumstances. Throughout Scripture, God's help often comes through unexpected sources: ravens feeding Elijah, a small boy's lunch feeding thousands, or a persecutor named Saul becoming Christianity's greatest advocate. God's help doesn't always come in the form we expect, but this promise guarantees it will come. We are never left to figure things out alone. Scripture is filled with examples of God's unexpected help. When the Israelites were trapped between Pharaoh's army and the Red Sea, God provided an escape route through the impossible, parting the waters themselves. When Elijah fled from Jezebel and collapsed in despair under a broom tree, God sent an angel with food and water, then spoke in a gentle whisper rather than dramatic displays of power. Consider Daniel in the lion's den, or the 3 Hebrew young men in the fiery furnace. God's help came not by preventing the trial, but by providing protection within it. Sometimes God calms the storm. Other times He calms His child in the storm. I will uphold you with my righteous right hand. The final promise addresses our fear of falling or failing completely. The Hebrew word for uphold means to grasp firmly, to sustain continuously. In ancient Near Eastern culture, the right hand represented strength and authority. Kings would extend their right hand to grant favor or demonstrate power. The addition of righteous reminds us that God's support is based on His character, not our performance. His righteousness means His support is reliable, consistent, and just. This promise speaks to our deepest fear, that we might fall beyond recovery. God promises not just momentary help but continuous support that will never be withdrawn. Peter experienced this upholding power literally when he stepped out of the boat to walk on water. When fear overwhelmed him and he began to sink, Matthew 14:31 tells us, immediately Jesus reached out His hand and caught him. This physical act perfectly illustrates God's spiritual promise to uphold us when we're sinking. The Apostle Paul testified to this sustaining grace when he wrote in 2, "We are hard pressed on every side, but not crushed, perplexed, but not in despair, persecuted, but not abandoned, struck down, but not destroyed. Despite shipwrecks, imprisonments, beatings, and constant danger, Paul experienced God's righteous right hand upholding him through it all. Fear mapping exercise. Now I want to introduce a practical tool I call fear mapping. Take a moment to identify your current biggest fear. Maybe it's financial insecurity, health concerns, relationship problems, or uncertainty about the future. Once you've identified that fear, we'll map each part of Isaiah 41-10 directly to it. Let me demonstrate. If your fear is I won't have enough for retirement, map the promises. Fear not gives I choose to reject financial anxiety. I am with you gives God is with me in my financial planning. I am your God gives my identity and security come from God, not my bank account. I will strengthen you gives. God will give me wisdom and discipline for financial decisions. I will help you gives God will provide resources and opportunities. I will uphold you gives even if my plans fail, God will sustain me. This mapping process transforms abstract promises into specific applications for your unique situation. I encourage you to pause this video and try this with your own fears. Practical application. Beyond fear mapping. Here are 3 ways to apply Isaiah 41-10 in daily life. First, practice presence awareness. Several times throughout your day, especially when feeling anxious. Pause and consciously acknowledge God's presence. Simply whisper, "You are with me right now," and take a deep breath. This simple practice can interrupt anxiety cycles. Second, create visual reminders. Place this verse where you'll see it during vulnerable moments, on your bathroom mirror, as your phone wallpaper, or on your dashboard. Visual cues help rewire our thought patterns over time. Third, develop a personalized version. Rewrite Isaiah 41-10 using your name and specific situations. For example, your name. Don't fear your job interview, for I am with you in that room. Don't be anxious about the questions, for I am your God. I will strengthen your mind. I will help you communicate clearly. I will uphold you with my righteous right hand. This personalization helps internalize the promise for your specific circumstances. Fourth, study biblical examples of fear transformed. When you face specific fears, find biblical characters who experienced similar challenges. If you fear inadequacy, study Moses, who protested, "I am slow of speech." If you fear rejection, consider Joseph, sold by his brothers, yet used by God. If you fear an uncertain future, look to Abraham, who left everything familiar to follow God's call. If you fear failure, remember Peter, who denied Christ yet was restored to become a pillar of the early church. These biblical examples remind us that God's promises in Isaiah 41-10 aren't theoretical. They've been proven through the lives of ordinary people facing extraordinary challenges, historical impact examples. Throughout history, Isaiah 41-10 has sustained people through unimaginable challenges. During the Holocaust, Jewish prisoners scratched this verse on concentration camp walls. Corrie ten Boom, who risked her life hiding Jews from Nazis, cited this verse as her sustaining strength during imprisonment. When Martin Luther King Jr. received death threats, he found courage in this promise of divine presence and support. Countless soldiers, cancer patients, and people facing personal crises have testified to the transformative power of these words. This isn't just ancient poetry. It's a living, promise that has demonstrated its power across cultures and centuries. Isaiah 41:10 offers more than comfort. It provides a complete divine response to human fear, from commanding us not to fear, to promising His presence, to affirming our relationship, to guaranteeing His strength, help, and continuous support. God addresses every dimension of our anxiety. These aren't just beautiful words, they're promises from the God who spoke the universe into existence. The same voice that said, "Let there be light," now says to you, "Fear not." From Noah facing a world-destroying flood, to Esther risking her life before the king. From Ruth leaving her homeland, to Paul facing execution, the biblical narrative repeatedly confirms what Isaiah promises. God is with His people, strengthening, helping, and upholding them through history's greatest challenges. And that same God is with you today. As you face your own challenges this week, remember, you never face them alone. The God who holds the cosmos is holding you.